Hi, guys, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Three Pillars podcast with your host, Chriselda. Today, we'll be speaking on the second pillar of writing. Today's guest is Shawn Anderson. Shawn Anderson is a number one ranked motivation and self help author, international keynote speaker, and a results producing people builder. His Go the Extra Mile philosophy and ability to produce winning results have been praised by political leaders, Olympic gold medal and world record holders, and media outlets all over the world. Shawn is the founder of Extra Mile America and the creator of Extra Mile Day in the United States. When it comes to living the life he loves, this seven-time author walks the talk. He has built a multi-million-dollar company, pedaled a bike 4,000 miles across the US, run a 100-mile race, and created adventures in close to 50 countries, including having walked across 7 countries. Hi, Shawn. Welcome to the Three Pillars. I'm so glad to have you on today. How are you doing?
It is a privilege to be on this amazing show from California all the way to Belgium, speaking with a person who speaks 5 languages, written 20 books, and who walks the walk she wants to walk.
No, thank you. But that's me. No, I want to talk about you. We talk about me later. I think I've spoken enough about myself. I want to know you because I think you're the interesting guy here, not me.
Chriselda, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be with you today.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on as well. Before we start, Shawn, could I ask you to tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Well, Chriselda, I really think I'm a very ordinary guy. And what perhaps makes me slightly bit different is I don't believe in living an ordinary life. I'm a person who, at a very young age, realized that the life that you envision for yourself, the dreams that you want, the wishes, the prayers, the hopes that you see yourself walking, if you take action, sometimes massive action, and if you continue to go the extra mile when life thumps you in the head and knocks you to your knees, if you keep going with vision and action and in a little extra mile spirit, man, you can really live the life you want. And so I think, that's what I write about, that's what I speak about, and that's what I live.
Wow, that's amazing. In just a few words, you managed to capture amazing, amazing thoughts. Now, I just want to, I'm just going to say something about what I read about you, and then I'm going to ask you a question on that, okay? You ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I read that you pedaled a bike 4,000 miles across the US, not once, but twice. You ran a 100-mile race. You created adventures in close to 50 countries, including having walked 3,000 miles across 7 countries in the last 5 years. And we're talking about countries like Spain, Portugal, England, Ireland, Italy, France, and Japan, where you added another 750 miles. Geez, this is amazing. How do you manage to do all this? And what is your source of inspiration?
Well, my source of inspiration is really a self-awareness that I get one life. And at the end of my life, which will eventually come, I'll be sitting in a rocking chair and I'll be looking at a scrapbook. And that scrapbook will be pictures, and it'll be pictures of the things that I did in my life, not the things that I wanted to do. And so I'm motivated by that fact. I'm motivated by that fact that I don't want to have lived my life with regrets. And so the things that I dream, the goals that I have, these are real to me. They're not things that I just whisper to people and say that's what I'd like to do. They're things that I whisper and shout at myself, and they're things that I do. And I'm going to keep giving my every day for as long as for as many days as I have. I'm going to keep doing the things I want to do while I'm here. See, I think life is this great, mysterious, marvelous, remarkable adventure with so much to see around every corner, and so much to learn from every different conversation I have. And man, it's my goal just to create as many of those moments, experiences, and conversations as I can.
How did you come up with the thought to do all this? Like these, going across 7 countries and things. It must have been a little idea. It started with an idea and then you took it forward. But how do you get the inspiration? How did these ideas come to you?
Well, every 8 months or so, I do take a long distance trek across a country. In fact, on June 1st, I'll be walking across the country of Scotland, which actually is one of my shorter walks. There's something called the John Muir Way, and it's only really about 135 miles. And it's one of my shorter ones, but I call them my axe sharpening trips. And life doles us. We're doled by all the situations and the things that happen in our life, and we start to lose our passion and we lose our purpose. We lose our we lose this sense that life is amazing and fantastic. And so on these axe sharpening trips, I go and I put myself in these times where I have to learn to believe in myself and trust myself all over again. I have nothing but my sneakers and the clothes that I'm wearing and a 25-pound backpack. And the moment I land in a country, I don't take any other sort of transportation. I just walk. And usually it's walking from one end of that country to the other end. And every day I just walk as far as my feet will go. I've got a sense, an idea of where I want to go because I think there's a place to stay up ahead. And man, I just go. And at the end of each of these trips, not only is my passion for life rekindled, but the purpose, the bigger picture that I see in what I can still do, I'm reunited with that again. So that's why I do these trips. First off, I love stepping outside of my comfort zone. I love seeing places in the world I've never met. I love having conversations with people all around the world because they teach me. That's why I do what I do.
And I'm pretty sure if these trips are unplanned, the things must happen that are not expected. So tell us about some stories where things became really hard for you or a hard time in your life and how you managed to get out of it.
Mm. I remember my very first trek. It was 550 miles, which I think is around 900 kilometers across the country of Spain. And at first, when I was going over the Pyrenees Mountains and my legs felt great, my heart felt great, man, I was just cranking it up that hill and I felt so good. And I went down that hill so fast. I'm going, man, this is easy. I got this. This is amazing. And I needed a little bit of a little lesson in perhaps humility at that time. And so I woke up the next day and my feet were bruised. My feet had been bruised from coming down the hill a little too fast, and it wasn't a smooth path, but it was a rocky path. And the sides of my shoes, because I don't wear boots, I wear sneakers. They hurt, and so I walked that next day, and around 10 miles, which would be I guess around 16 kilometers. Man, I my toenail, one of my toenails started to get so inflamed and my feet started hurting so much I could barely walk. And I was tiptoeing into this small town, and there was a lady, and it was a very small town, and it was just a few hundred people. She owned a small store, and she was sitting out in front of her store, and she saw me coming into town, and she started yelling at me in Spanish. Well, I don't speak Spanish, but I knew that what she was saying were words that I probably wouldn't want to translate, because she was pointing at my feet and she was shouting at me, and then she basically told me to go sit in the chair which she was sitting in. And she went into her store and she came back out and she had a little brown bag, and she got down on her knees in front of me and she took my shoes off. And when we took my feet off, they hurt so bad and they were absolutely bruised and they were starting to bleed and the blisters were super bad. And she took the contents out of her bag. And what it was a feminine napkin. And she wrapped my feet in these feminine napkins and taped them up so that there was cushion, and put my shoes back on. And without that woman, I probably wouldn't have been able to continue on in that hike. And I probably never would have continued walking year after year except for that experience about one person whose name I do not know, one person whom I will probably never see again, but one person who made a difference for me to keep on going.
Wow, what an amazing story. That's awesome.
Hey, well, it is an amazing country, as every country I've ever been to is. And this is what I've learned. I've learned that if I'm willing to step outside my comfort zone and just take some chances, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to die. I'm going to make it. It might be hard. There's no guarantees that it won't be hard, but there are going to be people around to help me. There's going to be moments that I'm going to see that are going to refresh my spirit. And it's just that willingness to cross the line. And then once we cross the line, the line gets further pushed and we keep crossing that line. And before we know it, man, our life has very, very few limits.
And I think you're very courageous as well, because to cross that line, you need a lot of courage, isn't it?
Or again, the self-awareness that you get one life. I don't think sometimes I cross the line out of courage. I think I cross the line out of fear. I think I cross the line out of fear and realizing again that I don't want to have regrets, man. That's what I'm most fearful of in my life is regretting having wasted the opportunity to live my life with my foot on the gas pedal and instead having lived with my foot on the brake pedal. So I cross with that self-awareness that this is my time. Now is my time because someday it's not going to be my time.
And tell me something, when did you actually realize yourself that you had reached your, that level of self-awareness? When was it? What was that precise moment that you actually realized, I have a purpose and I have to motivate other people? And when was it? Do you remember?
Well, it continues to keep evolving, and I used to think that I was so smart at age 35, and now I look back and go, man, I wasn't very smart at all. I mean, we keep evolving and we keep growing, and so my mission keeps evolving. But I was about 25 when I was an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I realized I was reading something about business mission statements and how to create the best business mission statement. And this is how you keep your employees focused. And this is how you keep your business focused. And I said, you know what? I need a mission statement for myself. I need a personal mission statement that drives me, that keeps me focused for the life that I truly want to live. And I knew that I wanted to encourage, motivate, and inspire other people in my life. I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted them to realize how big they are in such a grand world. So my mission statement became this very young, and I've stuck to it my entire life: to empower 1 million people to lead a more positive, passionate, and purposeful existence. That's my mission statement. That's what continues to drive me. That's how I choose what to do next. That's how I choose which project to take on. That's how I choose which direction to walk.
Amazing. And you came up with that all by yourself.
And a little help from my friend called the universe.
Of course. Okay, tell me something, Sean. They call you the motivational guy who walks his talk. I think I understand why, but what is that about? How did you get that name?
Well, my big thing is about going the extra mile. In 2009, I created something in America called the Extra Mile Tour, and I pedaled a bicycle from one ocean to the other. It was about 4,000 miles in a Forrest Gump sort of way. But that wasn't the power of the Extra Mile Tour. The power of the Extra Mile Tour was that my team had created 21 events in American cities where, with the mayor of those cities, I had the privilege of interviewing over 200 people who had been identified as having gone the extra mile in life in either chasing a spectacular dream or in overcoming some major obstacles and never having given up. At the end of that tour, I gave away $10,000 of my own money to keep that whole extra mile message going. So I created a day in America called Extra Mile Day. It's on November 1st. I just liked how those ones sat together in a line, 1, 1, 1. And on November 1st in 2009, that very first year, my team and I convinced 23 mayors of American cities to recognize their extra mile heroes, going the extra mile, people, organizations, going the extra mile in volunteerism and service in order to make the world and their local community better. That very first year, 23. Last year, November 1st, 2019, 533 cities across the United States recognized Extra Mile Day and clapped for their local extra mile heroes.
Wow.
So
That is
that's
so.
why the extra mile is my thing, man. It's either going the extra mile, walking across the country, going the extra mile for myself, going the extra mile to encourage other people, encouraging other people to go the extra mile for themselves.
Wow, you're super motivated, you. Oh my God. Where do you get all this energy from? The universe.
Speaking to amazing, spectacular podcasts who speak 5 languages, have written 20 books, and who make the world their address. That's where.
Oh, come on. No, really, the stuff you do is amazing. Now, I'm going to come to the main reason why I'm actually talking to you, your writing. You've authored 7 books, right? Why did you decide to put all your thoughts and everything in a book?
Well, writing used to be my avocation. I was building businesses and growing businesses, but I just had this message that I wanted to get out there. And so my first two books, Countdown to College, Preparing Your Student for Success in the Collegiate Universe, and Soar to the Top, which sold about 50,000 copies. They were just books. They were books that I just had something in me that I needed to share. And it was only after, they're somewhat big or limited success depending on who you are and how you think about it. I thought later, after I didn't have to worry about building businesses as much anymore, I got to really walk whatever I wanted to walk. I just said, you know what, man, let's write, because there's two real ways that you can reach other people if you're not, if you're not in a face-to-face one-on-one conversation. One is through the microphone, and one is through the written word. And so I chose to use both of those platforms in order to get this message out there that you get one life. Live it as greatly, as grandly, and as amazingly as you can dream. So I've kept writing.
What was the journey like? I mean, what is your writing process? Do you write spontaneously, or do you actually schedule a certain time in the day for a few hours that you sit down and you start writing? How do you do it?
Oh, fiddlesticks. Well, I'll tell you what, I write every single day. And I've kept a journal for, oh my goodness, way, way, way over 20 years. And I believe that the life worth living is the life worth recording. And it's in that journal that not only I believe that I become a writer. It's in that journal that I develop maybe a deeper level of self-awareness. It's in that journal that I see the positive about where I can go, not the negative about where I've been. I focus on, all my tomorrows, even though I'm writing about my today. And so my writing process has always begun, and it always continues. It might not form into a book, but it's in that journal. It's in those pages that I write, where I become deeper in touch with myself. And then I believe at that point a seed is planted about what to write next for other people. And I believe perfect writing is when the brain and the heart become one, and they're able to communicate to your fingers, and your fingers are able to put out what your brain and heart are feeling together. And I might have written 7 books, but I'll tell you what, Griselda, my greatest book has not been written. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but I know, I feel it. I feel that it's still in me. It has their greatest book still in them.
Amazing. So true what you're saying. What about publishing? So you wrote the book. What happened after that? What was your
Mhm.
journey like to get your books published?
Well, fiddlesticks, this is probably one of my better stories about really knowing what it is to get knocked down and punched in the mouth by life. The book that I wanted to write all along, it was called Soar to the Top. It was about teaching people this 4-step principle that I had followed at a young age that really helped me create success. But I couldn't find a publisher for that because I was super young at that time. I was probably, I think, 27, and people were saying, "We don't know who you are. You've never written anything, and we can't take a risk on this. And what makes you an expert? I mean, are you a millionaire yet? Are you this? Are you that?" And so I go, "Wow, okay, whoa, I need to write a book first before that book. I need to write a book that maybe I have more credibility, and maybe I can get a publisher, and then I can write the second book." So really, I had to take a step back. Instead of getting the book that I wanted out there, I had to write this other book. I had just graduated from the University of California at Berkeley, which is a pretty good school in America, and I had done well, and I had done a lot of things, and I really think I knew the ins and outs of how to succeed in college. So the book that I wrote was called Countdown to College: Preparing Your Student for Success in the Collegiate Universe. And because I had experience and wisdom and stuff on that subject, I thought I can get a publisher. Well, the very first publisher I sent that book to, they said no. And I go, okay, okay, this is what you read about. This is what happens. This is part of the deal. So I sent it to a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth, and I heard no, 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 no. I kept on going though, because I believe so powerfully in not that book, but Soar to the Top, that I couldn't stop. It was the 83rd publisher that I sent Countdown to College to that finally said, yes, we will publish your book. So I had those, and actually it was the 84th because I had 83 rejections. So 83 rejections before I published Countdown to College, which was the book before the book I really wanted to write, which was Soar to the Top. That's how it started for me.
Oh, wow. An amazing journey, but you didn't give up. you went on, right?
Yeah, because isn't that where most dreams, goals, and hopes end is with us giving up? I mean,
Mm,
nobody can ever really tell us to quit unless we listen to them so closely and they are yelling quit that we say, okay, I'll quit. I'll tell you what, the only person we want to have that honest self-talk with about quitting is myself. And I'm always going to keep telling myself, don't you dare quit, man. Don't you dare quit because that's what you want. Just keep going. Just keep going. So I don't know quit. I don't know what that is anymore. I don't quit. I don't quit.
mm. Inspirational, that is. So, you published the first book, and then did you manage to get your second book published easier then after that?
Yeah, yeah, thank you for asking that question. So yeah, the first publisher on Sword of the Top rejected me, but the second and the third said yes, and so I had a choice there between those two publishers. It's because my first book had had some success, so I could say, wow, well, my first book sold these 8,000 copies, and so, in the book selling world, that's pretty good. And so they said,
Mm.
okay, 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 we got you, let's go for this and soar to the top, and that little dude sold about 50,000 copies back then, and that's where I learned how our words mean something. Not only the words that come from our mouths, but the words that we put on paper, how they can influence people, how they can make a difference for people. And when we choose to use that power of the word, not only that comes from our mouth or from our pen, man, we can help shape and encourage other people to live their greatest life. And I just challenge everybody out there. The words that you use, they mean something. And so every time that you say something negative to someone else, just know that that sticks like a fly on fly paper. So don't do that. Why don't instead you give a person wings, you give them freedom, and you say, you know what? I believe in you. I believe in you. And I think that you got this, man. I think that you can climb that mountain. So you go. You go and you do not stop. You got this. And I think that's why I wish the world spoke with that kind of tongue, because I think if it did, I think we would all die with a smile on our face knowing that we had lived the life that we wanted to live.
What about self publishing? Did you never consider that?
Well, after Soar to the Top sold the 50,000 copies, and I really realized in the end, how much that book had grossed, but how little the author had netted,
Mm.
that I decided, you know what? I am going to learn. I'm going to learn how to market the book, and I created a publishing company. I created Goldmine Press, and Goldmine Press was one of the entrepreneurial endeavors that I have built in my life, and its purpose is as a publisher. And so certainly there's a great amount of money that's involved in it, because every book that would come through potentially, you have to pay all the money up front. You've got to pay for your book covers and your edits, and every there's so much book. You have to pay for your marketing, and each book, and certainly printing. I mean, the first run that Goldmine Press did, I think we ran a print run of 35,000 copies of a book, and I think that first initial investment for the very first book was close to $60,000, and but yet I didn't have to worry about getting such a small percentage of the net in the end. I got a higher percentage of everything.
Yeah, that's a good initiative. So those are your entrepreneurial skills. And that's what I was reading, that you at the age of 10, you actually started a business selling worms to fishermen. Is that true?
I realized that if I wanted to buy packs of baseball cards, I needed money, and if I needed money, I needed to find ways to create it. And so I decided to flood my parents' backyard with water, and the giant worms, the giant night crawlers, would come up, and I could gather them at nighttime, and I'd put them in giant barrels. I'd run an ad in the weekend newspaper in Reno, Nevada, and I would sit out front at 6 a.m. and the fishermen would come by, and before they went to the Truckee River to go fish, they would buy my worms, my night crawlers by the dozen. And I learned then that the more night crawlers that I could pick, the more baseball cards I could buy. And so that was one of my first lessons in cause and effect. That was my first lessons in if you dream it, you can do it. That was one of my first lessons in, man, have a vision, take action, create results. And it's that early lesson continued just to keep on building in me. The biggest business that I ever started was I built a college. I built a college in Los Angeles, California. I had a real desire to want to create a college for generational welfare people to see if we could teach them job skills to get them back working on the streets. And I think at its peak, the college had maybe slightly over 100 employees. And, certainly we had a few hundred students at a time, 500, 600. And it was just a continuation of learning what I'd learned at a small business and continue to perfect that and grow that and build that. And I don't really know what's going to be next for me. I don't know, but I'm open to every single opportunity that comes. And we all have that power. We all have that magic. All it takes is believing in yourself. Very first thing I write on the top of every one of my goals, the number one thing in my step of 20 plans to get to where I want to go is number one, I believe in myself. I can do this. And if you all just take that sort of attitude as you approach every one of your goals, you've just increased your chance of success 100%. And we life is rich with opportunity. I just hope that you and me and every one of our listeners continues to take theirs.
Amazing. But that was a really cute story. I can't imagine a 10-year-old sitting there picking up these worms and putting them in the jars. I got, oh God, that's amazing. Okay, tell me something else, Sean. When you're writing, it could, it's possible because you're speaking about motivation as a topic time and time again. There could be a level of stagnancy that sets in at a certain point. Did you ever have that? And how did you manage to get out of it, to deal with it?
Every Thursday I put something out, and tomorrow I think will be the 420th issue. It's called Inspirational Thursday. And Inspirational Thursday is a short blog newsletter that I send out to subscribers. It's absolutely free, but I am accountable for creating something and writing something every week. Now, sometimes you're not quite sure what to write. And there have been moments that I have literally sat there and gone through idea after idea after idea and thought, I don't like any of those ideas. You start to mesh something out and you just go, oh, I just don't feel it. Because as I try so hard to write something, it's all brain. And I have to wait for that magic spot, that magic moment where all of a sudden I just release, I let go. I just take that breath. And then when my heart kicks in and I just get that little bit more passion, it just flows. But I just hang with the process because my accountability is I've got to put it out by Thursday. And I'm smart enough to know that you start early in the week for your idea and you let it build and you grow because you might have nothing on a Monday, you might have nothing on a Tuesday, and you might not have nothing till Wednesday night at 5 o'clock when you go, yeah. So you stick with it, man. You
Yeah.
stick with it until your heart kicks in because there is that magic spot. And I believe that you don't force your writing. You gotta flow, man. Because if you're not feeling it, I can promise you that your reader's not gonna feel it either.
Mm, that is so true. So you need your heart and your mind to connect, really, right? And that's when you get your best work out.
Yeah, because I don't want to read something that has no passion, so I don't want to create something that has no passion. And there's a certain point where all of a sudden maybe it's the frustration and the anxiety and the with yourself that you haven't gotten that point. But man, that starts to strike into a deep that opens up something, that opens up some emotion, some raw emotion where you start to think, man, I am struggling. And you think, well, so are other people, Shawn. It's almost like this whisper that you hear, so are other people. Well, what would you tell? What would you want to tell someone who is struggling? What would you want to say to that person? And then when you start to put it in a different perspective, you start to your words change. The way that they come together change. The shape of the sentence changes. And then in the end, what you wrote, you sit back and you go, "Wow, I don't. Did I just write? Did I just write that?" Because sometimes, and this maybe other writers can relate to this. Sometimes we sit back and we go, wow, I didn't even know I just wrote that, but that's okay. I get that. Yeah, that moves me, and it didn't come from me.
And do you choose your surroundings to get into that zone? Do you have a special place that you sit at, or do you need? Do you write better when you're in nature, or when you're listening to some kind of music, or I don't know, in your living room? What I mean, is there a certain surrounding that helps you better, or it doesn't matter? It's all mental.
The surrounding is just being quiet inside my head wherever I am. because certainly we take motivation from everything that we see that is around us, but it's usually what has been around me prior to that moment. Because oftentimes I'm forced to have to write, and I'm in another country, and I could be in a restaurant, or I could be in a park, or I could be on a mountainside, or I could be sitting on the edge of a pier looking out in the ocean. I mean, you write where you are, but you take your brain with you everywhere you go. You take your heart with you everywhere you go. You take your experiences with you everywhere you go. And that's what it becomes. It just becomes, again, those three things connecting: the mind and the heart and the fingers. And it doesn't, everything else around me I don't want to focus on, because I'm not going to, at that moment, it's not going to write it for me. It's whatever's internal within me is going to do the writing.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about your last book. What is it about and your journey with it?
Well, I'll give you a few hints about that book. So my new style of writing is really fictional inspiration. And I don't want to read a book anymore that tells me the 10 ways to make $1 million. I don't want to read the 17 ways to dress for success. I don't want to read the 762 things that you need to do to live a great life. I don't want to read facts. I want to read stories. I want to read stories that inspire me. And I got this from my all-time favorite writer, Og Mandino. And Mandino had a gift of telling a story, and inside that story are lessons. And we'll let the reader pick whatever lesson that the universe wants to give that reader. And it's a chance to be a little bit entertained. It's a chance to flow a little bit more and not get stopped at number 7 on the list. And so that's my style. So I created a character. His name is Amicus. And you're never quite sure who Amicus is. Amicus is this mysterious, strange character who seems to come into people's lives at the perfect time of struggle, the perfect time when they're looking for answers, the perfect time where they don't know where to go next. And the first book that I wrote with Amicus was called Amicus 101. And the last book, of which you just inquired about, is a book called The Four Fibs. And Amicus once again returns, and this time he meets a guy who's pretty down on life, and a lot of things are going real wrong. And the guy's walking on the beach one day. He was lucky enough to find the motivation to do so, and he runs into a man feeding bread to birds. And he's pretty amazed by this man's bird feeding process. And before he knows it, he's standing next to the man feeding birds too. And these two continue to take a walk together along the beach. And in one day, this man teaches him 4 fibs, the 4 lies that people tell themselves that hold them back from reaching their potential. That's my latest book. It's an ebook, The 4 Fibs.
So you've actually incorporated what you want to teach people, but you've incorporated it into a fiction story, which is amazing.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely it. Because I think a story, as a writer, the story allows you to get a little bit more passionate about the lessons that you're trying to teach rather than trying to create them in a list. Well, Chriselda, this is the first thing that you need to do to write a book. This is the second thing you need to do. There's limited passion in that. There's a lot of intent, but there's limited passion. I think when we write things that come from our heart, as you well know, as a person who writes poetry, you write from your heart. As a person who has written books of horror, there are amazing imagination and things that scare you that you're putting on paper. So you get this concept, and your passion comes out, and that's what I'm just learning to do.
And what's your next work then? Your next book? Is it also going to feature Amicus or do you have something else in mind?
I'm pretty sure that me and Amicus are going to probably hang out together here soon.
Okay. So have you already started or not yet?
the you know the that whole process is something that's always moving. It doesn't stop. And sometimes, as a writer, I have found that if you're not writing the story, you're thinking the story, the seeds are being planted for that story. But you make sure to think about that story every single day. So, I'm trying to find Amicus's perfect setting as he begins his next, his next book. And certainly we've got a list of a whole bunch of places to start, and each of those places has had the beginning of a book written. And so we'll just see which one ends up feeling the best, and that's the one that we'll end up having him cross the finish line on.
Do you see yourself a bit in Amicus or not?
I believe that I that writers, they come out in everything that they write just a little bit, sometimes more than just a little. Usually in my writing, I'm usually writing about the person who might be struggling with knowing what to do, and then the other character is the person who's the guider, the influencer the seed planter on helping to encourage that person to keep walking. And most certainly I'm a little bit of both. Most certainly at times I'm the guide, and certainly at times I'm the lost. And I think it's I say that with complete humility, because as a human being, every single day, each of us face challenges and obstacles. Each of us face failures and defeats and rejections that stop us sometimes, and we hurt. And so I'm not immune to knowing defeat or failure or loss, and or rejection. And so there's times that I feel that too. And I hope that comes out in one of the characters of my book all the time, because I think that's all of our struggle. It's the universal struggle. It's the universal struggle of, just almost trying to survive. And I think the power of my message and going the extra mile is to share with people that life wasn't just meant to survive, to strive past the survival. And it's getting ourselves back up when we've been knocked down, and to keep going. And that's where we'll find the best lives. And I think that I do my very, very best to try to make my writing be something that people can embrace and relate to and say, that's me too.
Wow, nice. Very nice. Um, Now, if I mention healing through creativity, what does that tell you? What does that, mean to you?
Well, it means a person who's probably been punched pretty hard in life in different ways, and they're using some sort of, artistic, something that stretches themselves, that brings out the best of themselves in some creative form, whether it's painting, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, whether it's writing, whether it's starting a business, that gives them the chance to maybe heal, that it's allowing maybe their pain to foster, to grow from the weed that it was into some sort of flower that it can become. And I believe all of us, within the pain that we've the hurt that we've had, the healing that we're trying to find, I believe that all of us, if we can accept that, and if we can show gratitude for that hurt and that pain, I believe if we can find that special place, that then we're able to move past that, and we're able to find our best creations.
That is so true. And tell me something now. I'm quite fascinated by everything that you're saying. But as tell our listeners, share with them some of your tips to staying motivated, to staying positive.
Hmm. Well, certainly, the number one lesson to for me is never to look to someone else to motivate you. Motivation it's an inside job all the way, and I believe that we each need to take that responsibility and embrace that responsibility and say, hey man, if I'm going to be happy, if I'm going to be inspired, if I'm going to be motivated, if I'm going to be successful, you know, that's up to me. And so every single day, that's our responsibility. And so some specific things that I do, as I mentioned before, I certainly find power in journaling. And my journaling is never a negative process, but it's always a positive process. It's always looking forward. Maybe I've talked about something bad that's happened, but I always seek to find the lessons in what happened that I didn't like. I journal every single day. Journaling is my number one accountability tool, and it keeps me focused on what I want, and it keeps me doing what I want to be doing. Journaling is my number one. My number two is I exercise every single day. Feeling good health wise, I can assure you I'm not feeling good mentally or spiritually or emotionally, but exercise is that special place where you get out and you stretch your lungs, you stretch your heart, you move your legs, you feel alive. And when we create positive motion in our life, we create positive emotion in our life. So the other thing I do every single day is I exercise. And the third thing that I do every single day that keeps me motivated is never once do I stop and not try to motivate as many people as I can through that day. I mean, I have a goal every day of finding five people that I can encourage, because when I'm not feeling great and motivated about my life, I take the focus and the light off of myself and I put the focus and the light on someone else. And when you motivate five other people, at the end of the day, you're feeling pretty darn motivated too. If you want to change the world, if you want to change your world, start by helping other people change their world. And then the last thing I do is every single day to keep motivated, never once do I stop going the extra mile. Every single day I go the extra mile. I go the extra mile for my own health. I go the extra mile for my purpose. I go the extra mile for other people. Because when I go the extra mile, I give my chance, my current situation, my status quo, a chance to get better. And every single day, I might not move miles forward, but I move inches. But every single day, I'm moving forward because I'm not letting myself sit still. I go the extra mile. So that's what I do. I find power in journaling. I exercise every single day. I pass on power to others through encouragement and motivation, and I continue to go the extra mile. That's how I stay motivated.
Amazing. Tell me, how do you, so you have a goal of 5 people. How do you do that? Do you just, go up to people and you start talking to them and motivate them? Or how do you find these 5 people? Or it's just random people around you?
Let me just take a step back too. Every morning, here's something that might be beneficial to people. Every morning, some mornings are tough for people. They're going, oh my God, I don't want to get up today. Or oh, this is what I've got to do today. Oh, wow. And so when the feet hit the floor, we've already started the little generation negative mental machine rolling. Well, I'm aware that that's a possibility. So the very first thing I do in the morning when I wake up, I send my thoughts moving in a positive direction. I create positive momentum from the very beginning. So I ask myself 3 morning questions every single day. They're fast. It'll take less than 3 minutes. I promise you. The first question is, what am I excited about doing today? What am I excited about doing today? Because at the very beginning of your day, if you can find something that you're excited about, you've just created positive momentum and something to look forward to. Number 2, who can I encourage today? So maybe somebody's on your heart, something's on your mind. It might take a phone call, it might be an email, but you start thinking about that. Who can I encourage today? Or who can I add value to today? The more value we add to other people, the more value that will come back to us. The third question that I ask myself every morning is, what am I grateful for today? Because when we live with an attitude of gratitude, the world just seems kinder. It seems nicer and it seems like a place that I want to be a part of. What am I excited about today? Who can I encourage today? What am I grateful for today? Let's go back to the question, how do I find my 5 people? Well, because I'm somewhat active on social media or because I have a big newsletter list, I get a lot of people that will continue to write me to ask for suggestions. So I pour my awesomeness, whatever awesomeness might be in me, I try to grow that awesomeness that would be in them, and I give them everything I can in that email or that phone call and try to encourage them to move forward. That's how I find my 5 people.
Wow, my God. You just you just gave your awesomeness to me too with that. It's, it's amazing. It's lovely. All the stuff you're doing is really great. How do you see the future?
I see the future as as soon as this podcast ends, I see the future with me putting leashes on 2 amazing chihuahuas. And together, the 3 of us are going to go take a really long walk. And I'm going to watch them smell the flowers, and I'm going to watch them watch the bees fly. And then that's going to remind me to look at the flowers, and that's going to remind me to watch the birds fly. And that's the future. I don't want to look so far into the future that I forget that today's maybe all I get. I mean, what is today? February 19th. February
Mm.
19th of the year 2020. My future is the next hour. I look and live and breathe that next hour more than I'm worried about what I'm going to breathe 7 days from now or 30 days from now or 1 year from now. So that my future is these 2 chihuahuas that are going to be so darn happy when they get their leashes on. They're going to run around and chase each other around the house, and they're going to be so happy that they get to go on a walk. Man, they get to go on a walk with their best buddy in the whole world, which is me. And together, the three of us, we are going to go out and we are going to have the greatest walk we've ever had. That's my future.
How awesome is that? Amazing. What are they called?
Okay, well, yeah, one of them is called Amicus, and the other one is called Emmy, capital E, capital M, small I, which stands for extra mile. So those are their names,
Oh,
Amicus and Emmy.
oh, Abacus, like after your book.
Yes, yeah, I,
Oh,
I name my pets after my book titles. In fact, I've got a tortoise too. My tortoise is named after a book title. His name is Fibs, Fibs, after the book The Four Fibs.
you're
So
kidding.
I'm
Is that
Amicus,
true?
Emmy, and Fibs. No,
So
that's
I'm
true.
presuming,
That's absolutely true, man.
and you also have a book,
Yeah.
Emmy, then. Oh my God, that's amazing. You've
Well,
got to get
no.
more dogs.
Well, yeah, one book. Well, the book's not called Emmy. The book's called Extra Mile America:
Ah,
Stories of
okay.
Inspiration, Possibility, and Purpose. So it comes Emmy, EMI comes from that book, the beginning of that Extra Mile,
Mm-mm.
EMI. small I, M-E.
Yeah,
That's how,
you
and
could
that's how
have.
Emmy spells her name, capital E, capital M, small I.
Oh, you could have called her Emma. Then it was actually just according to your
Oh, I
book,
could
isn't
have,
it?
right? Yeah. I,
Mm.
I learned this a long time ago about this concept called anchors. And anchors, the more things that we throw in our world, whether it's a positive note on a mirror, whether it's a note on our steering wheel in our car, whether it's a note behind in the refrigerator door, these notes that remind us of who we are and who we want to be. And certainly every time that I call out my dog's name Amicus, I'm reminded of the best of me. I'm reminded of the best character that I ever wrote about. And the more that we surround ourselves with the best of us and the best of who we want to be, the more that we transform ourselves into that person. I believe that every human being out there has that capability where whatever limitations in which you're living now, whether it be financially or emotionally, maybe you're in a bad relationship or you have bad health, I believe that where you are now is not where you have to be tomorrow. And the more that you create change in your thoughts, the more that you will create change in your feelings. And the more that you create change in your feelings is the more that you will create change in your actions. And the more that we create change in our actions is the more that we change our world. Everything for me begins in what I think, and that's what and if people learn that small lesson, that's how they can change their world from the inside out.
Somehow I don't see you ever getting tired. Do you ever get tired, or you always like this, full of energy and everything else?
I do my best to live with energy as much as I can. And, but I'm 57 now. I'm 57. Sometimes it's hard to believe that life has gone by so quickly. At age 57, there's no doubt you start thinking about, you know, where does it all end? But then I come back to that positive thought. Well, let's just keep it going as much as we can now, because when life's going good, we shouldn't be looking in the rear view mirror. We should still be looking about how far we can still dream and how far we can still go. And so I do my best to really plant those seeds, and every day I do my best to find my best energy. And again, you got to keep your body healthy, man. You got to stay healthy, because picture yourself with a bad cold, picture yourself with the flu, picture yourself with a sprained ankle. If you have any of those three things, the rest of the quality of your day suffers. Your relationship suffers. Your attitude suffers. So wherever you are in your life, if things aren't going great, I just challenge you to focus on creating great energy, great physical energy, because once we have the physical energy, everything else will start to fall into place.
That is really true. Sean, do you have any specific writers or books that have inspired you through your journey?
Yes, Chriselda, and one of them I had mentioned before, Og Mandino.
Hmm.
He had written, and again, it's spelled O-G. For his first name, Og Mandino, Mandino, and he was an author that really motivated me with his style. And the other author, it was a guy by the name of Benjamin Franklin, famous in America certainly for
Hmm.
having accomplished so many things. He had a book called, the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, and in that book, he had identified 13 virtues that he wanted to improve on, that he wanted to build an accountability system and really monitor. So every I guess 25 days or whatever, he focused on one of those over the course of a year, and he became that virtue. He became stronger and better in that virtue. But it was that self-awareness of him saying, these are the areas that I want to improve in, and these are the areas that I want to grow in. And so that really made a difference for me. And I certainly didn't duplicate Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, but I found my own accountability system to measure myself on areas that I wanted to be better in. And so that book had a profound effect, because if we're not aware of where we are and who we are, we can never direct where we want to go and who we want to be. And it begins with knowing what you might be good at, and knowing what you want, and knowing the things that you want to improve. And it's mastering what you're already good at, and it's becoming better at what you want to improve. And that's how we grow, and that's how we continue to go further in life.
Wow. Okay. And you've already shared with us a lot of, you've given us great advice here, but do you have any other advice that you can give to aspiring writers?
Yeah, if you've got a message, if you feel that you have a message in your heart, don't you got to write it. you got to write it. And sometimes when we write, maybe it's only for ourselves or just for a few people, but just be fair to yourself. Just respect yourself enough to just to get that message out. And every single day, I'm not encouraging you to write a chapter or even a few pages. What if we just start with, man, just write a paragraph, one paragraph a day. But you got to stick with it. You can't say I'm writing on Monday or Wednesday and Saturday, or I'll write when I can. I'm just asking you, just write a little bit every day, even if it's only 10 minutes. Because if you write 10 minutes every day, at the end of a week, you've written for 70 minutes. And in a 70-minute writing process, you're going to turn out more words. And if you keep doing that day after day, week after week, in a few months, you're going to have something you're very, very, very proud of. And who knows, lightning might have really captured you at that moment, and you won't write for an hour on any particular day, but you'll write for 2 hours or 3 hours, and then it'll continue to go. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you look back and you're on chapter 12. You're on chapter 12 of something that didn't exist until you wrote the very first words, and it began.
I just a thought passed my mind, and I think I should ask you. So tomorrow's Thursday, and tomorrow you have to release your, is it a newsletter or an Inspiration Thursday? What was that?
It's called Inspiration Thursday, and it's every single Thursday. People can count on it. And I think tomorrow is my 419th issue in a row. If I can fudge just a little bit, you're probably going to ask me what tomorrow's about. And I'll tell you, I'm not quite sure yet. I've got a couple of themes that I'm working on them both. And oftentimes, if one theme doesn't work exactly this time, I kind of file it away and bring it up again at a later date when I might find more passion or something else to add to that story. But it's certainly my afternoon plan today is to sit down and to really find something that's good. And hopefully tomorrow what comes out is good too. And we always have our fingers crossed for that, right?
Good luck. I'm sure you'll have something amazing, and no doubt at all. Any more information that you'd like to share with our listeners, Shawn?
You know, man, I just encourage people to really continue to listen to your podcast because I think that, Chriselda, you're just a really great example. You're a person who sees something they're interested in and you go and you do it. And I think that the more that people hang out with people who are dreamers and visionaries and people who take action, the more they'll become that. And your listeners have an opportunity to do that with you. This woman who's learned 5 languages, who's written 20 books, who started her own podcast, and you are that person. And if we all just had a little bit of more Chriselda in us, I think that all of our lives would be a little bit more special. You're
And
welcome,
then,
Chriselda.
oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you made my day. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thanks, Shawn. Oh, well, I'm sad that the show's coming to an end. I don't like it because I had so much fun, and I mean, you're very inspirational and you're truly motivational, and you have this, this amazing. How should I say? You explain things and you make it easier, even though the stuff that you're saying is pretty three-dimensional, but you lay it out really easily so that people actually can understand and relate to what you're saying, which is difficult, huh? And you do it pretty easily, and that's amazing. So I've learned a lot as well on the show, just talking to you. And I'd like to stay in touch, and I'd like to already invite you to series 3 of the podcast. And on that series, we're going to be dealing with self-help, and you're a guru on self-help, so I'd really like to have you on as one of the guests there as well. So
Well, I
if you
think I'd
join
probably
us.
be one of the luckiest. I'd be one of the luckiest guys in the world if I had a chance to do another podcast with you. So thank you very much for that consideration.
Oh, then you're going to come on. Yay, I'm happy. I'm looking forward to that. Okay. And then the last question, how can our listeners contact you or find your books?
Hmm. Thank you for asking. Certainly ShawnAnderson.com, ShawnAnderson.com. You can go there. You can sign up for Inspiration Thursday. It's absolutely free. I promise you, I'm giving you my very, very best each week to either push you up your mountain or to maybe pull you at times. Maybe I write one sentence that really resonates with you, but it's a quick read. Never does it sell a single thing in life, except it just sells you hopefully a little bit more on you. And that's where they can go. If you want to learn more about Extra Mile America and certainly the 533 cities that we did last year and will continue to go. And you can read many of the stories of the hundreds of volunteers and what they're doing to change the world. You can go to extramileamerica.org, extramileamerica.org. And if you are a Twitter fan, you can certainly go to Shawn at Shawn Anderson.
Okay, cool. And so I'm going to put the links to all that you just mentioned in the description box of this episode, so it'll be easier for them to get to you. And yeah, it was amazing, Shawn. I hope you had a great time like I did. And I'll have you back on soon, hopefully.
Gratitude. You're an amazing spirit. Thank you, Chriselda Barreto.
Thank you, Shawn Anderson, and have a lovely afternoon.
Create a great day.
Okay, bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on The 3 Pillars. See you next week and make it awesome.